Laker Nation, do you love the Lakers? Do you want more free Lakers videos? Well, the solution is simple. Subscribe to the Lakers Report by Chat Sports right now by going to youtube.com/LakersTV or hit that red subscribe button down below. Welcome into the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and a lot of Lakers fans are clamoring for the Lakers to go after some big-ticket players via trade, maybe even the free agent market. Via the trade market, they're looking at guys like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard. Is that realistic, though? Probably not. According to the Los Angeles Times writer Dan Hoike, he spoke on the Lakers' chances of trading for either Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard this upcoming offseason, and he said, look, it's simply not as easy as people believe because of the Lakers' problems with financials as well as the cap situation, but he did discuss Kyle Kuzma and KCP as trade targets, which is something that we've talked about here on the Lakers Report, because the Lakers, not only do they not have a lot of money, they don't have a lot of great trade assets either, which we'll explore further on today's show. Here's what Hoike had to say on the Crossover podcast. Even if you wanted to trade for Bradley Beal, getting the 30-some-odd million dollars is tricky. It's not an easy thing to do. That trade starts with KCP and Kyle Kuzma at $26 million. That is the foundation of that trade if Montrezl Harrell opts in. Those are the three pieces you have to make the math work. I don't think that's palatable for Washington. I would guess not. I go back to the Lakers' lack of money and assets. There's no doubt that the Lakers this upcoming offseason need to improve the roster around LeBron James as well as Anthony Davis, because I do think the Lakers should and will keep AD. Here's the problem, though. They don't have a lot of great players to give up in a trade to bring another good player back, and there are going to be some marquee free agents on the open market. Unfortunately, though, Lakers don't have a lot of money to offer those free agents to lure them to Los Angeles. Dan Hoike continued on the Crossover podcast by saying this: if you want to take Kyle Kuzma and use him as a piece to get more proven shooter, you could maybe do that. That seems like an option or something like that. If you think you can get a player who is maybe not as effective defensively as Kentavious-Caldwell Pope, but who is a little more consistent of a shooter, and that's what you want. KCP is a young player on a pretty decent deal. Maybe you can get that done with sort of one of these future picks or something like that, but trading for Bradley Beal or trading for Damian Lillard or any of these sort of photoshops that show up in my mentions every time any player anywhere in the NBA speaks, it's going to be tough. That final line right there is an absolute classic from Dan Hoike on the Crossover podcast. As for the Lakers' serious trade assets on the roster right now, you're looking at Kyle Kuzma, who's due to make $13 million over the next few seasons. KCP has an affordable contract as well. Here's the one to monitor. Montrezl Harrell has a player option, so he could either opt in, he could opt out to become a free agent. Maybe him and the Lakers come to an agreement where he opts in, but then they elect to use him as a trade asset and send him elsewhere to bring a marquee player in. Looking at guys like Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard, I mean, it's easy to see why Laker Nation has fallen in love with these superstar players. Bradley Beal finished second in the NBA in scoring behind Steph Curry, who just put in one of the most historic offensive seasons we've ever seen, averaging more than 31 points per game. He's knocking down field goals at a nearly 49% clip. And Damian Lillard, on the other hand, I'd probably say is the better player, the more clutch scorer, has had more postseason success, and is just all around an assassin. Almost 29 points per game. The shooting numbers very similar to Bradley Beal. The fact that Dame is shooting almost 40% from distance with all of the volume there is flat out ridiculous. So I want to ask you this, Laker Nation. Who would you rather trade for out of these two stud superstars? Type B for Bradley Beal, type L for Damian Lillard. Be sure to get your votes in the comment section down below. I'm going to go and submit my L for Dame. The Lakers Report is made possible thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. It's the best deal of any sportsbook out there right now. If you go to chatsports.com/Lakers and enter the promo code LAKERS125, you get a 125% deposit bonus, meaning if you deposit $100 in your account using that link at the bottom of your screen, you get $225 of money to wager on. Maybe you want to put some lettuce on The next team that Damian Lillard is going to play for in 2021, Blazers minus 200. Your Lakers right there at plus 275. Knicks plus 650. Bucks at 8-1 odds. Heat at 8-1 odds as well. LeBron over-under for triple-doubles next season? I might put down some bread on this one. The over-under has been set by BetUS at 10.5. The over at minus 130. The under at minus 110. Myself, producer Sam Brown, who's gambling Sammy to my right, we're going to smash the over at minus 130. So one more time, go to chatsports.com/Lakers, enter the promo code Lakers125 using that link at the bottom of your screen, and you get a 125% deposit bonus to lay down all the lettuce you want and make all the wagers that you want as well. As for the Lakers free agent targets, couple big names out there. Again, can they afford them? Do they have the assets to give up to maybe free up cap space? Bleacher Report did a good job of putting together a free agency big board for the Lakers offseason. And as we know, coming off that NBA title a year ago, really critical offseason ahead for the Lakers after that first-round exit because you have to capitalize on LeBron still being at the peak of his powers even though he's 36 years old. You never know what's going to happen with AD and his injuries, so you got to capitalize on this current window. And when you look at areas of need for Los Angeles, definitely could be more depth behind those aforementioned stars in LeBron and AD. Speaking of that free agency big board that Bleacher Report put together, I kind of agree with what they had to say. Are the Lakers going to keep their own free agent guards, guys like Dennis Schroeder? Talen Horton-Tucker is going to be a restricted free agent, as well as Alex Caruso. Lakers, Rob Pelinka, big decisions to make here. As we know, Schroeder gave up and did not sign that 4-year, $84 million contract extension. Alex Caruso is going to hit the open market. Could he demand $10 to $12 million from another team across the league? Talen Horton-Tucker is another guy who continues to develop really nicely. He's one of the few, young pieces who the Lakers have been able to build. He impressed me this year. 9 points per game. He shot nearly 46% from the deck. So Rob Bullock has a decision to make. I think you let Schroeder walk. If Caruso wants to come back at a good price, you bring him back. If another team doesn't blow away THT with an offer around $15 million, I think he comes back to the Lake Show as well. But I want to ask you all this. Somewhat of a difficult question. Pick one to keep of these three. Type DS for Dennis Schroeder, AC for Alex Caruso, or THT for Talen Horton-Tucker. Going back to that Lakers free agency big board, a name that kind of intrigues me as well as Bleacher Report, Reggie Bullock of the New York Knicks. He was a really solid two-way player for one of the best stories that was the New York Knicks this past season. Here's what BR had to say about maybe the Lakers signing Bullock. He's going to demand a lot of money on the open market. There will be suitors who are going to be interested. It's hard to win without proper spacing in the modern NBA. It's almost unfathomable to try doing it while rostering rim attackers like James and Davis. Those players need breathing room, and LA didn't give them nearly enough. But as the Lakers have learned with players like Ben McLemore and Jared Dudley, one-dimensional shooters don't really move the needle. The Lakers need snipers who won't get obliterated on defense. That's why I make the point of Reggie Bullock being a really good two-way player. He can space the floor, he can knock down threes from the corner, from the wings, from straight away. And last year, almost 11 points per game, shot 44+% from the field. It's a good player who, if you get him at affordable price, can be a championship player on this roster. Lastly, Wayne Ellington. Going up to the NBA trade deadline as we are monitoring the NBA buyout market as well, I sat here on the show and said, yo, Rob Pelinka, I mean, if Wayne Ellington becomes a free agent, or if you can give up like a second-round pick for this guy, pull the trigger, because this roster is bereft of lethal snipers and shooters who can knock down buckets from the outside. That is what Wayne Ellington is, especially at this point of his career. Yes, he's getting older, but still the production this past season in 46 games was pretty solid. What you're hoping with a player like this, he can continue to shoot around 42% from distance, give you a little bit more defensively than a guy like Jared Dudley or Ben McLemore. And also, I just think Wayne Ellington is flat out the better player that would fit better on this current roster. Ben McLemore, he had okay stretches. Jared Dudley should probably retire and become a coach. If you can get Wayne Ellington, definitely get him in here through the free agency market as well. And because he's older, I don't think he'd cost all that much either. We talk about these free agents, just named a couple of them, Bullock, Ellington, couple of the players on this Lakers roster currently. This is what I want you all to do. Name a free agent you want the Lakers to sign and leave those names in the comment section down below.